Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Paul, the Canadian Snowman. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day, or maybe this video will make you, help you, whatever. Have a wonderful day. But yeah, we're continuing Napoleon Marshals, part 3. Very interesting stuff. We pretty much first couple parts were pretty much like the marshals that you didn't really hear much of, or not at all, really, in the Napoleon series. And so I'm assuming, obviously, the ones that are more named, whatever, more well-known marshals are going to pop up here in these next couple of parts, I'm sure. So let's get in deep and just get all the dirt on all these guys, because, you know, there's always some cool, awesome marshals, and there's the ones that aren't so cool and awesome. But yeah, I think that's it. What else do I need to cover? Well, there's also a chance that tomorrow videos might not be coming out because I got plans. Might have plans, who knows? But I'm saying if there's days where there's no videos posted, it's just because, you know, plans came up and I just did not have time to make videos. So don't beat me up. So okay, anyways, let's get to it, guys. Let's get to it, unless there's anything else to say. Oh yeah, the usual, right? Please hit the like and subscribe button. You know, that's just, you know, every YouTuber's kind of slogan to kind of wake people up. Oh yeah, I gotta do that, right? So I'm stalling. I can just sit here and like ramble on forever. But I know you guys are like, just push play. Push play. Alright. Let's do it, guys. Alright, you guys ready? I don't know if you guys are ready or not, but we'll play anyway.
Terror belli, decus pacis.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Terror in war, ornament in peace. The words inscribed on every French marshal's baton.
Cool. I want one.
In France, the title of marshal or maréchal goes back at least to the 13th century. It represents the highest possible position of military authority, authority symbolized by a marshal's baton. The title was abolished during the French Revolution as incompatible with the egalitarian spirit of the age.
I want to order one online.
But in 1804, Napoleon founded a new empire and restored the ancient rank. This is Epic History TV's guide to Napoleon's marshals. All 26 have been ranked according to our own evaluation of their achievements as marshals, with expert guidance from Lieutenant Colonel Rémy Porte, former chief historian of the French army. So far, we've met Marshals Perignon, Brune, Serrurier, Kellerman, Grouchy, Moncey, Poniatowski, Jourdan, Bernadotte, Augereau, Lefebvre, Mortier, and Marmont. First, a big thanks to our video sponsor, Blinkist. Blinkist is here to help solve a big problem for many of us. So many books, so little time. World. There are many great options. Cancel at any time. Thanks again to Blinkist for sponsoring this video.
Yes, thank you, Blinkist, right? Woohoo!
13. Marshal Saint-Cyr. Gouvion Saint-Cyr was a gifted student who ran away from a miserable childhood to become an artist.
Huh.
A passionate Republican, he embraced the French Revolution and later volunteered for military service. Though proud and aloof by nature, his Republican politics and sharp intellect ensured he was elected captain of his company. His skill at drawing enemy positions then got him noticed by General Custine, who gave him a job on his staff. During these turbulent early years of the revolution, Custine was one of several generals who was punished for defeat, with a trip to the guillotine.
Wow.
Saint-Cyr's instinctive grasp of warfare, brilliant planning and tactics won him promotion from volunteer to general of division in 2 years.
Nice.
An even more remarkable achievement, as he'd had no formal military training. But his cold, analytical approach meant that he was always a respected leader, rather than loved.
Yeah.
After 5 years' service with the Army of the Rhine, he was sent to Italy. At the disastrous Battle of Novi, he commanded the French right wing, but skillfully extricated his troops from the debacle. The next year he was back on the Rhine and won a brilliant victory over the Austrians at Biberach. But a bitter dispute with his commander, General Murat, encouraged rumours that Saint-Cyr was impossible to work with. Saint-Cyr believed soldiers should not meddle in politics, and did not support Napoleon's seizure of power in 1799. Nor did he show much enthusiasm for Napoleon's decision to crown himself emperor 5 years later. His political views cost him dearly. Saint-Cyr was sidelined for several years, while less able generals were made marshals. In 1805, he commanded French forces in central Italy. But when...
I guess that's like, you know, like I said, you gotta be political if you want to get, you know, up in this world. You just got to, you know, you gotta, you know, and apparently he was like just a cold person. And so, you know, probably didn't rub people the right way. So that also, like, you know, you kind of just have to be, it helps to be friendly if you want to move up. And I don't know, you just kind of have to, you know, suck up to people sometimes if you want to get, you know, your promotion or get something. I don't know. But seems like, you know, it's a guy who's, you know, he knows what he's doing. He just, you know, just comes off, I guess. It's very hard.
In 1805, he commanded French forces in central Italy. But when he was made subordinate to Marshal Massena, a man whom he personally detested, he returned to Paris, even when Napoleon threatened to have him shot for desertion. In 1808, Saint-Cyr was given command of a corps for the invasion of Spain, but his failure to take...
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm pausing it a lot. As far like this, if I was a commander, I think I'd rather be at one of these other fronts than the Spain front, because with all the guerrilla war tactics, like, there's no just one heads on. There's the enemy heads on. You don't know if you're going to get attacked from the sides or from the mountains or whatever. So, yeah, like, I'd rather be over there in, like, Austria trying to fight, you know, a battle there than be over here in Spain. It seems like, I don't know, like you're got a lot of disadvantages over there in Spain, obviously. Anyways.
Saint-Cyr was given command of a corps for the invasion of Spain, but his failure to take Girona meant he was relieved of command. Leaving in a fury before his replacement, Marshal Oudinot, had arrived, he was nearly court-martialed again for desertion. Saint-Cyr's military talent, however, was not in doubt. In 1812, he was recalled for the Russia campaign, with command of 6th Bavarian Corps. His role was to support Marshal Oudinot in guarding the northern flank of the French salient. When Wittgenstein's Russians attacked at Polotsk, Oudinot was wounded, and Saint-Cyr took over command, turning probable defeat into a brilliant victory.
Nice.
For this achievement, Napoleon awarded Saint-Cyr his Marshal's baton.
There you go, buddy.
But 2 months later, at a second Battle of Polotsk, Saint-Cyr was attacked by a larger Russian army, seriously wounded in the foot and forced to pull back.
Yeah.
His injury meant he missed the worst horrors of the Russian retreat. But he contracted typhus early in 1813 and was sick for many months. Saint-Cyr returned to the Grande Armée in August, taking command of 14th Corps and the defence of Dresden. Incredibly, this was the first and only time that he worked directly alongside the Emperor, and both soon learned new respect for each other's abilities. Saint-Cyr's skilled defence of Dresden set the stage for Napoleon's great victory there later that month. But Saint-Cyr was incredulous when Napoleon later ordered him to remain in Dresden, while other forces concentrated for the decisive Battle of Leipzig, 60 miles to the west. Napoleon's defeat at Leipzig meant that Saint-Cyr and other garrisons in the east were cut off and had to surrender that autumn.
Damn.
Saint-Cyr took no part in the 100 Days, determined to keep out of France's political disputes. Under the restored monarchy, he served as Minister of War and tried, but failed, to save Marshal Ney from the death penalty. He also struggled to enact military reforms in the face of royalist opposition, eventually resigning in disgust and retiring to his country estate. Marshal Saint-Cyr remains one of the great what-ifs of the Napoleonic Wars, an extremely able commander sidelined for his politics, who might well have proved one of Napoleon's very best marshals. 12.
Yeah, it seems like he's a great guy. You like, not as far as like personality, but like you'd want on your side. You know, if you want him to win a battle or just doing something when it comes to war, he's your man. But like, you know, if it has to do with politics, he ain't fighting for you. It's like, I don't want nothing to do with that. He knows what he's good at, and politics is not his thing. So, you know, seems like, you know, a very good marshal. Just, you know, had some bad luck with, you know, injuries and being sick, so that kind of sucked. But yeah, what could have been, right? But you know, that's just personality. You can't change that.
One of Napoleon's very best marshals.
On to the next one.
12. Marshal Oudinot.
Jesus,
Nicolas Oudinot ran away to join the army aged 17, but his father dragged him home 3 years later to help run.
Before this even gets into it, I'm just gonna guess, like, he probably was born into like an awesome family, had the riches and the prestige of his family, and was just like thrown into like a role of, here, you're gonna be like a commander in the army. And he's just like, sure, yeah, he knows nothing about that kind of stuff, and he just got thrown into it and knows nothing, so he's not very bright about it, or maybe not even trying to learn. But seems like just, you know, just a cool dude, you know. He's just, you know, probably, I don't know. I could be way off, but that's just the first impression I get.
17, but his father dragged him home 3 years later to help run the family business. When the revolution began, he volunteered for the National Guard and was promoted to major. In the wars that followed, he served with the Army of the Rhine, always in the thick of the fighting, rapidly promoted and frequently wounded, a habit for which he became celebrated. In 1799, he was promoted to General of Division and sent to Switzerland to serve as General Massena's new Chief of Staff, a role he performed to perfection. Serving with General Bagun in Italy, he led a cavalry charge against an Austrian battery at the Battle of Monzembano, sabering gunners and capturing one cannon himself, a feat for which Napoleon awarded him a Sword of Honor.
So I go back to that picture, man. It just, I don't know, it just makes you realize just how shitty war is, man. The hand-to-hand combat is horrible. I'd rather be shot any day than be like stabbed with a saber. Oh my God, that'd be gruesome. I'm sorry, I'd be one of those guys like, they're kind of, see ya. Man, I'm gonna get like my leg chopped off. Obviously, I would have to back then, but today, man, it seems like a gruesome way to kind of go down. Anyways, it's like, yeah, look at that, man. It's like, look at this guy. It's really like stabbed this guy in the back, man.
A feat for which Napoleon awarded him a Sword of Honor. In 1805, the newly crowned Emperor Napoleon gave Oudinot command of an elite grenadier division formed from the tallest, strongest soldiers in the army. In December that year, at the Battle of Austerlitz, Oudinot insisted on leading the division in person, despite having been shot in the thigh 2 weeks.
Brave man.
2 weeks earlier. His grenadiers were kept in reserve for most of the battle, but saw heavy fighting in the latter stages, as Napoleon completed the destruction of the Allied left wing. At the Siege of Danzig in 1807, General Oudinot's division had the unusual distinction of capturing an enemy warship, a British sloop that had run aground trying to resupply the city. A month later, at Friedland, Oudinot and his grenadiers were under Marshal Lannes' command and played a crucial role holding up the Russian army, until Napoleon arrived to deal a decisive blow. During the 1809 war with Austria, Oudinot was wounded once more at the Battle of Aspern. When Marshal Lannes died of his wounds, Napoleon chose Oudinot to succeed him as commander of 2nd Corps. He led his new corps with such success at Wagram 6 weeks later that Napoleon attributed victory to Massena and Oudinot.
Nice.
A week later, he became one of 3 new marshals, one for France, one for the army, one for friendship. Oudinot, the army's choice, fearless and much loved, a man whose courage inspired all around him.
Okay, so where's the not being very bright part come into play? Because this guy seems like he's awesome so far from what I've seen. So, you know, I'm definitely wrong when it came to my what's it called, thinking of Oudinot. Yeah, that's it.
Fearless and much loved, a man whose courage inspired all around him. He later received an additional reward, the title Duke of Reggio. In 1812, Marshal Oudinot led 2nd Corps into Russia, but was wounded again at Polotsk and handed over command to General Saint-Cyr. 10 weeks later, he was back with his corps, marching south to join up with Napoleon's army on its retreat from Moscow. Oudinot's men were shocked when they saw their old comrades from the main column. They looked more like fugitives than soldiers of the Grande Armée.
Damn.
Since Oudinot's 2nd Corps was in better shape than most, it formed the vanguard for the desperate crossing of the Berezina River. But the next day, in bitter fighting to hold the bridgehead against the Russians, Oudinot was shot from his saddle. He was carried back to a cottage with a serious gunshot wound, but then he and his party became surrounded by Cossacks. Oudinot asked for his pistols, and from his bed, aiming through an opening opposite, began firing at the Cossacks.
Wow.
They were rescued by friendly troops, just in time.
Damn.
Oudinot was back with...
Damn, this guy, man, like, the Cossacks, those guys are deadly. He got away with his life, man, and he was injured. I'm guessing the only way I can see him not being very bright is just he gets hurt a lot. Maybe he just put himself personally in situations where he doesn't need to be, where, you know, he's getting hurt when he doesn't really need to be in those situations, you know. I don't know. Seems I like this guy, though, so far.
The troops, just in time. Oudinot was back with the Grande Armée in Germany in 1813. In August, Napoleon ordered him to lead an advance on Berlin, but he was defeated by Bernadotte's Army of the North at Grossbeeren. He then retreated in the wrong direction, causing Napoleon to remark, "It's truly difficult to have less brains than the Duke of Reggio." In Oudinot...
Oh, I spoke too early. Come on, anyone could have made that mistake. You said it the wrong way. When you retreat into the battle? Oh my god. Oh my god, you can just hear Napoleon say that. That's just funny. Come on now, it's funny.
Difficult to have less brains than the Duke of Reggio.
God.
In Oudinot's defense, he'd probably been given an impossible task. Insufficient men to take on a strong opponent, bad weather, terrible roads,
Exactly.
and he himself unwell, possibly not yet recovered from his ordeal in Russia. Napoleon?
I believe in him.
Put Oudinot back where he was most effective, leading troops in combat under his close supervision. At Leipzig, he commanded 2 divisions of the Young Guard, engaged in heavy fighting on the southern front for 2 days. Oudinot continued to serve the Emperor courageously and loyally as a corps commander in the final campaign of 1814. But in April, he was one of several marshals to confront Napoleon with the reality of his position and force his abdication. When Napoleon returned from exile in 1815, Oudinot refused to break his new oath to the monarchy, but declared neutrality, telling Napoleon, "Since I shall not serve you, sire, I shall serve no one."
Right.
He continued to hold senior commands under the Bourbons. By one estimate, Oudinot was wounded 36 times in his military career, more than any other marshal.
God.
Here are just 20 that we found details for. A fellow officer who bathed with him at a spa after the war saw the scar.
I'm sorry. Gunshot, gunshot, gunshot. Saber, gun wound, gunshot, gunshot. Broken leg. 3 saber cuts. Come on, this guy's my favorite. Sorry, this guy's by far my favorite marshal. This guy's a survivor, man. Survivor, nice guy, loyal. Sorry, like this dude. Well, guys are probably going to kick my butt in the comments for saying that, but he seemed like a cool dude to me.
A fellow officer who bathed with him at a spa after the war saw the scars on his body and observed he was little more than a colander. Ironically, Oudinot was also one of the longest-lived marshals, dying aged 80 while serving as governor of Les Invalides.
Well earned. Say nothing. Do not say nothing in the comments. Do not do it. Do not do it. I know what you're thinking. Do not do it.
11. Marshal Victor.
Marshal Victor. Victor was better than one of my... What?
Claude Victor Perrin was an experienced soldier by the time of the French Revolution, a sergeant with 8 years' service in the Grenoble artillery regiment. The Revolutionary Wars brought the opportunity for rapid promotion, and by 1793 he was commanding an infantry battalion at the siege of Toulon.
Oh yeah!
He led a daring night assault on British defences alongside the army's artillery chief, a young Major Bonaparte. Both men were wounded, but the attack was a success, and both were quickly promoted to Brigadier General. Victor served under General Bonaparte in Italy and turned out to be a brilliant brigade commander. In 1800, he distinguished himself at the Battle of Marengo, where his command of the left wing won particular praise from Napoleon. But Victor did not hide his disapproval of Napoleon's quest for political power, and as a result, received relatively minor roles under the new regime. In 1802, he was earmarked to lead an expedition to recover the French territory of Louisiana, but it was called off when Napoleon decided instead to sell Louisiana to the United States. Victor and Marshal Lannes were close friends from their days serving together in Italy. In 1806, Lannes persuaded Napoleon to let him have Victor as his new chief of staff for 5th Corps. Napoleon agreed, and in October, Victor served as Lannes' deputy at the Battle of Jena. Napoleon's earlier misgivings about Victor were now forgotten, and that winter he was given command of the newly formed 10th Corps. But within weeks, he was captured by a Prussian patrol and had to be exchanged for a captured Prussian officer, General von Blücher.
Oh.
His big break came in 1807, stepping in for the wounded Marshal Bernadotte to command 1st Corps at Friedland, where he successfully led a major attack as the Emperor looked on. Promotion to Marshal and the title Duke of Bellumo swiftly followed.
Nice.
In 1808, Marshal Victor and 1st Corps took part in the invasion of Spain, where he'd be posted for the next 3 years. Victor's record in Spain was better than most, but like others, he seemed more interested in personal glory and rewards than in cooperating with fellow commanders. In 1809, at Medellin, he inflicted a crushing defeat on General Cuesta's Spanish army. 4 months later, his bold night attack on the British at Talavera came tantalizingly close to success. He was furious the next day when King Joseph and Marshal Jourdan refused to support fresh attacks and instead ordered a cautious withdrawal. The next year, Victor besieged the Spanish port of Cadiz. It proved a lengthy, futile operation, devoid of glory, and saw his troops defeated by an Allied sortie at the Battle of Barossa.
Damn.
In 1812, Victor was recalled from Spain for the invasion of Russia. His 9th Corps was held in reserve for most of the campaign, though his troops were kept busy defending depots and convoys from Cossack raids. That autumn, his corps attempted to cover the main army's retreat from Moscow. The greatest crisis of the retreat came at the Berezina River. As the remnants of the Grande Armée began crossing over 2 improvised bridges, Victor's 9th Corps was ordered to form the rearguard. Though heavily outnumbered, Victor skillfully handled his French and German troops, holding the Russians at bay as the army made its escape. He then marched his surviving troops over the bridges in good order. A courageous performance in desperate circumstances.
Nice.
In Germany in 1813, Victor commanded 2nd Corps and led the attack in Napoleon's last great victory at Dresden. His corps was in heavy fighting again at Leipzig 2 months later. Victor continued to serve at the Emperor's side in the defense of France in 1814. By now, like many comrades, he must have been close to physical and psychological exhaustion.
Yeah, I'd imagine.
Regardless, during the Battle of Montereau, Napoleon let fly at him for failing to get his troops into position and blamed him for the Allies' escape. Victor was relieved of command, but angry and humiliated at what he considered his unfair dismissal, he told the Emperor, "Marshal Victor has not forgotten his old trade. I will shoulder a musket and take my place in the guard." Moved by this response, Napoleon relented and gave Victor command of a corps of young guard. 2 weeks later, he was badly wounded at the Battle of Craon and took no further part in the war. A month later, Napoleon abdicated, and Victor switched his loyalty to the Bourbon monarchy with surprising zeal. He led an investigation into former comrades who'd supported Napoleon during the 100 Days, and was one of only 2 active marshals to vote for the death penalty for Marshal Ney, a decision he later claimed to regret. Victor later served as Minister of War, but retired from public life in 1830, following the overthrow of the Bourbon monarchy.
Oh, one sec. Right. Pause. So it seemed like, he could have done bigger, better things, but to start off, like, he was, I guess, not all for what Napoleon, I guess, started. He wanted the monarchy and all that, so he wasn't in Napoleon's good graces. He was kind of in it for glory and for prestige, and so that kind of probably held him back from, like, I don't know, being more respected by his fellow comrades. And yeah, and then he just seemed like he said he wasn't he didn't believe in the war. He wanted prestige and everything. And yeah, and he was like on the monarchy side. He's probably happy that Napoleon lost and everything, but I don't know. I don't know. We're on to the next one here. We're top 10, guys. Top 10.
Marshal Murat.
Come on. Jesus.
Joachim,
I'm a slow reader. I'm sorry. Wow.
Joachim Murat, the son of an innkeeper, was destined for a career in the church, but dropped out of college and joined a cavalry regiment instead. To his immense frustration, he saw little action in the early years of the Revolutionary Wars, being stuck with staff and training roles. But in 1795, while stationed in Paris with the 21st Chasseurs, fate intervened. A young general, Napoleon Bonaparte, had been put in charge of the defense of the National Convention. With a mob poised to storm the building, he ordered Captain Murat to bring him cannons, which he did, racing the guns through the city streets, allowing Napoleon to mow down the mob with a famous whiff of grape shot.
Damn.
Napoleon was hailed as the saviour of the government and rewarded with command of the army of Italy. Murat was promoted colonel and went with him as his new aide-de-camp. He soon made a name for himself as a bold and brilliant leader of cavalry, while his 6-foot height, curly locks and love of women ensured fame as France's foremost beau sabreur.
What's that?
In 1798, Murat joined Napoleon's expedition to Egypt. At the Battle of Abu Qir, his flanking charge broke the enemy, and Murat personally took the Ottoman commander prisoner, despite being shot in the jaw, a wound which, to his immense relief, did not ruin his looks. Back in Paris, Napoleon launched his coup d'etat to seize political power. When he got a hostile reception from the Council of 500, it was Murat who saved the day, leading troops in to clear the chamber, shouting, "Citizens, you have been dissolved," before adding something a bit more coarse. His place at the future emperor's side was further assured when he married Napoleon's youngest sister, Caroline, in 1800. Later that year, he commanded the French cavalry reserve at Marengo and helped Napoleon to win a decisive victory over the Austrians. When Napoleon established his empire in 1804, Murat became a marshal, second in seniority only to Berthier. He'd later also received the title Prince of the Empire and the rank of Grand Admiral. In the 1805 campaign, he commanded Napoleon's cavalry reserve, his excellent reconnaissance and diversions proving crucial in the encirclement of General Mack's Austrian army at Ulm. 3 weeks later, Murat and Marshal Lannes, who normally couldn't stand each other, together bluffed an Austrian commander into surrendering a vital bridge by persuading him that an armistice had been signed when it hadn't.
Wow.
It was a bold stunt, but overall Napoleon was not impressed by Murat's pursuit of the enemy. "I cannot approve your manner of march. You go on like a stunned fool, taking not the least notice of my orders." Yet in battle, Murat remained a brilliant and inspiring leader, as demonstrated at Austerlitz, and the next year at Jena, where he led the decisive charge, wielding only his riding crop. The next year, at Eylau, with the Russians poised to break through his centre, Napoleon ordered Murat to lead a mass cavalry charge straight at the enemy. Murat's men succeeded and saved the army from disaster, though at a terrible price in men and horses. Napoleon had rewarded Murat in 1806 by making him sovereign prince of the Grand Duchy of Berg. In 1808, he sent Murat to Spain to act as his representative. Spain was still a French ally, but in May, Napoleon's heavy-handed meddling in Spanish affairs triggered a ferocious backlash. Madrid rose up against the French garrison, and Murat's troops fought back with brutal force, killing around 200 executing 300 more. When Napoleon deposed Spain's Bourbon monarchy, Murat hoped he'd be made the new king of Spain. But that title went to Napoleon's brother, Joseph. Murat instead received the throne of Naples. If it felt like second prize, it wasn't bad going for an innkeeper's son, college dropout, and ex-cavalry trooper.
Right?
Napoleon
Jeez.
expected Murat to merely represent his interests in Naples, but Murat had other ideas. He reformed the Neapolitan army, equipping it with splendid new uniforms, and turned a blind eye to smuggling, which undermined Napoleon's economic war against Britain, the so-called Continental System. Relations between Murat and the Emperor became strained. But when Napoleon began planning to invade Russia in 1812, only Murat would do to lead his cavalry. Their differences were put to one side. Murat took command of 4 cavalry corps and became Napoleon's second-in-command.
Wow.
During the advance into Russia, Murat's cavalry faced a difficult and frustrating task, trying to locate the enemy in a vast landscape. Horses died in their thousands from poor fodder and exhaustion, and they faced a dangerous and wily opponent in Russia's Cossacks.
Yeah, Cossacks, man.
Murat, always riding with the advance guard, was so fearless and conspicuous in his extravagant uniforms that the Cossacks came to admire him, calling out "Hurrah, Murat!" whenever they saw him, and hoped to capture him alive if possible. Murat was among those who tried to persuade Napoleon to halt the advance at Smolensk, but was ignored. At the great clash between the French and Russian armies at Oudinot, Murat was at his best, directing a series of attacks on the Russian earthworks, always where the action was hottest, inspiring all with his courage.
Nice.
Murat remained with the army during the retreat from Moscow, though his magnificent cavalry had virtually ceased to exist.
Yeah.
One eyewitness noted that throughout the ordeal, he never neglected his appearance. Even at the Berezina he looked splendid, in an open-necked shirt, velvet cloak, a white feather in his cap.
Wow.
When Napoleon left the army to return to Paris, he gave command to Marshal Murat. But Murat, now primarily concerned with hanging on to his kingdom, left the army a month later and returned to Naples, where he opened secret negotiations with the coalition. He offered to join the war against Napoleon if the other powers would let him keep his crown. But he received only a lukewarm response. So in 1813, when Napoleon asked Murat to join him in Germany to fight for their thrones together, he answered the call.
Okay.
Murat had become increasingly difficult to work with, oversensitive about his royal status, prone to tantrums, but in battle as fearless as ever.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
At Dresden, his charge through rain and mud shattered the Austrian left wing and paved the way for victory. But then at Liebert-Volkwitz, he showed his limitations when not under Napoleon's direct command, getting drawn into a major and unnecessary cavalry battle with coalition forces, and twice nearly being captured himself. 2 days later, at the Battle of Leipzig, he led another of history's great cavalry charges, coming close to breaking the enemy centre and even capturing the Allied monarchs. But it was not to be. The Battle of the Nations ended in a disastrous defeat.
Yeah, it's a great video.
As Napoleon retreated to the French frontier, Murat informed the Emperor that he was leaving for Naples, promising to raise fresh troops. Murat and Napoleon would never meet again. 3 months later, the King of Naples had cut a deal with the coalition and switched sides. So long as it was possible for me to believe that the Emperor Napoleon was fighting to bring peace and glory to France, I fought loyally at his side, Murat declared. But now I know that the Emperor's sole desire is war. However, Murat's commitment to the Sixth Coalition was distinctly half-hearted. His army marched against Eugene's forces in northern Italy, but had done no actual fighting before news arrived of Napoleon's abdication. Murat then began to suspect what had been obvious to Napoleon at least. The coalition was not going to honour its promise, and Murat would be next to lose his throne. So, in 1815, encouraged by news of Napoleon's return from exile, Murat marched north against the Austrians, proclaiming a war for Italian freedom and independence. Just 7 weeks later, his campaign ended in defeat at the Battle of Tolentino. With the British and Austrians closing in, Murat became a hunted fugitive. He sailed to France, but Napoleon had not forgiven his betrayal and refused to see him. After Napoleon's defeat at Waterloo, he fled to Corsica, gathered a small band of volunteers and returned to Italy in a hopelessly doomed attempt to start a revolution and reclaim his throne. Chased by a mob and arrested on the beach, Murat was sentenced to death by the restored Bourbon monarchy of Naples. He met his end with his usual courage, telling the firing squad, "If you wish to spare me, aim at the heart," then gave the order to fire himself.
Wow.
Murat is rightly remembered as one of the great battlefield cavalry commanders of history. Inspirational, fearless, with brilliant tactical instinct.
Great painting.
But outside of combat, he was, in Napoleon's estimation, a very poor general. He always waged war without maps. Worse, when the conflict turned against France, he allowed self-interest and vanity to prevail over loyalty to the emperor. As Napoleon's chief of staff, Marshal Berthier, once told him, "You're only a king by the grace of Napoleon and French blood. It's black ingratitude that's blinding you." Saint-Cyr, Oudinot, Victor Murat.
You know, I don't know. I like the guy, but I don't like the guy. It's like toss it because he seemed like just like a great, like I said, like cavalry commander. He didn't no fear. He seemed good at his job, and then they basically said everything that I was kind of thinking, but then it's kind of self-interest, went above, I guess some loyalties or whatnot. But sometimes for a lot of that, you can't really blame him. I don't know. I kind of have mixed feelings towards the dude because he seemed like really cool. Like he was great, but then there's little things that annoy you about him. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think, because I'm always kind of curious of you guys, what views you guys have of these guys that I overlooked, or I don't know. That was kind of cool. The ending, hit me in the heart because you don't want to mess my face, man. The heart. I guarantee you, if you would have said, "Yeah, just avoid my face," the guys was just him in the face, Anyways, let's see what happens.
17 down, 9 to go. Join us for part 4 when we'll continue the countdown. Coming soon.
All right, here we go, guys. We just finished part 3. Very interesting. I like that we're getting more in depth, and it's more guys that, because I've recognized the names from some of these battles, but the real inside information from these previous videos, all those battles and stuff, I was kind of forgot. I just know them. I just recognize the names from the battles, so I don't really remember the personal stuff about them. So it's kind of cool to get the in-depth kind of information here. But anyways, guys, please hit that like and subscribe, guys, if you haven't yet. And yeah, I really appreciate you guys watching. You guys are awesome, and hope you have a great evening. Time is it's like 9 p.m. while I'm recording this, and this should be uploaded tomorrow, probably at 11 a.m. And there might not be, after this video, there might not be another one the next day, because pretty sure I'm doing something tomorrow. There's possibly I'm not, but there's going to be days where there's going to be no videos popping up, and just have to bear with that day. But I really do appreciate you guys watching, and I really appreciate your guys' feedback, and definitely thank you guys uh, for all that. So, anyways, thank you for watching once again, and I'll definitely catch you guys in future videos. Peace.